Oh my gosh. Okay, good. The mic is working. It is thundering here. I don't know. I mean, I see Daisha and Alicia, and I think Nancy are here. I don't know if it's storming where you guys are. Nancy, obviously, you can probably hear it too, but like I can feel the walls rumbling. So if for some reason I get cut off or I disappear, just know that that's why. So, and it takes a second or so for our generator to kick on, but I know that it'll kick me off right away. But that's wild. I can literally feel it through the house. It's been a long time coming. It has looked like it's going to rain all day. So I'm kind of glad that it's finally here. Okay. Oh, hey, Jeff. So I am like, I know I say this all the time, but like getting on here. Jeff said I let Daisha win. I know I saw that she was on here. I didn't even send the link. Um, I have so many emotions about our running group and, this journey that's, I don't even know how long it's been, or I don't know if this is year 6 or whatever it is. I always have deep reflecting thoughts about like, where is this going? What am I doing? And often I know I say this all the time and Nancy will chime in with hey, Nancy will chime in with like, you're not feeling anybody, but like, I always have this sense of like, oh my gosh, like I am changing and evolving. So obviously things have to change and evolve with me based on my emotions and things like that. Anyway, I always get ready to get on here and I'm like, maybe people are tired of hearing from me, or maybe like, just these thoughts that just bombard me. Really, it's negative self-talk and it happens all the time. Like very rarely do I have those moments of like, okay, I feel like, I don't know, I've got some, magical recipe and it's going to be super helpful. And probably because I just, it's been 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. And I'm sure that's just a natural progression of things. But like, so when I got on here and I pushed to go live and I didn't send any links out, and Nancy, you had texted me that I saw while I was waiting for it to, I kind of just give it a second. And then Daisha and Alicia were on here saying hello. And I just feel like I was I was just, I don't know, overwhelmed with emotion. So just thank you guys for being here. And every time I feel like, I'm just going to be honest, every time I feel like I am at the point where it's like, okay, this probably, isn't working, or I am messing up in some way. Just, I feel like God is constantly sending me signs. I know everybody here in this chat right now, everybody watching this gets it. That he just, he won't let me. He won't let me. He won't let me go down that path. And there's just something about it. And so just literally all that rambling just to say that, like, thank you guys. And just seeing your names pop up and you being here with me, just, I don't know, reignites me. And just, I just thank you and I appreciate you. And not that you have to be on here because I know everybody is busy and it's not about that. So it's, anyway, I can't really explain it, but just know I love you. And I was completely overwhelmed just seeing you guys popping up in the chat. And I just love you. Okay. So on my list today of things that I want to talk about, I'm going to start with speaking in terms of like, God and him always leading me on the path, right? Leading all of us on the path. Today's message, in church, the reading today had me in tears. I listened to it actually before I even went. And then I listened to it at church, and it was phenomenal. I don't know if anybody heard it today, but it was the parable, which Jesus talks always about, through parable stories, right? Like giving an example, kind of like how this life thing works. And I interestingly started listening to the Bible in a Year podcast you can do Spotify, iTunes, wherever. And the one I'm listening to, I think, is by Father Mike Schmitz, and I'm only on day 8, so we'll see. It's 365 days to get through the entire Bible. We'll see. I just randomly started it on a whim. My kids were at soccer camp. I had time to go to the gym, and as I was at the gym, I was like, this thing was popped up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. So I'm on day 8. So anyway, I've been in this whole listening to some things, which is how I got to the place of listening to this reading before even going to church. And as I'm listening to it, it was so fascinating, and it might make me emotional now even talking about it, but it was so good because it was this parable about, I'm going to mess this up, but just bear with me. I'm going to try to keep the sentiment the same. The parable was about a farmer who had planted these wheat crops and sent his workers out to kind of like man the crops, right? So sowing the fields and planting the wheat and waiting for the wheat to grow. And through the night, the enemy, right? So the parable, the idea is that the farmer is Jesus and the enemy is the devil, and all of which we know is very real. And so in the middle of the night, the enemy comes and spreads weeds all throughout the wheat at the farm and in the fields. There are weeds spread throughout the wheat. And the workers come back to the farmer, to Jesus, right? And say, overnight somebody planted weeds throughout the field. And they said to the farmer, did you not plant something about, essentially, did you not plant good seeds? And he said, no, it was the enemy. The enemy, came and planted the weeds throughout the wheat. And that's what you're seeing. And they said, okay, so should we go and pull it out? And he said, no, don't pull it out. Let it grow. And they said, but we can go and get it right now. And he said, no, do not go pull the weeds, because when you pull the weeds, there is a chance that you will also pull wheat with it. And you will, damage the crop. You will remove the wheat with the weeds, and it is not worth it. Let them grow. And so he goes on to say something along the lines of, let them grow because they look too similar, right? In their early stages of weeds and wheat, as they start to grow, the crop begins to grow. And you may mistake one for the other. You may mistake wheat for weed, and you may pull out wheat when it looks like a weed. And he said, let them grow. And then once they grow, you will be able to differentiate between the two. What is wheat and what are weeds? And at that point, you will gather the weeds, you will burn them, and then you will gather the wheat and you will bring them into, I don't know, it's not my home, but my stable. I don't know, whatever it is, wherever you would take wheat to be processed. And the whole idea is that this is supposed to symbolize, Jesus is the farmer, the devil is the enemy, and the wheat is us, right? The wheat is us in the field. But the field itself is earth, this world that we live in. And this idea that people, right, take time to grow. We take time to grow and change. And I think it really hit home for me today, because the whole idea of, we all kind of, you can be confused early on in our lives and in our choices and the lives that we're living. Are we weeds or are we wheat? And the idea that weeds need to be removed and then the wheat needs to flourish. And that whole concept of like, we are all constantly growing and changing. And so the homily today was a little bit about how, he had asked, we had a guest, priest today, and he just asked, like, how many of us have only gotten back into our faith recently? How many of us were gone for 10, 20 years? And people started to raise their hands. He was like, no, don't raise your hand, which we all laughed very hard, because so many of us, right, have gone to that place of like feeling like we weren't being our best selves and making our best decisions. And we are all constantly in a stage of growth and in a stage of growing and changing. And we are not who we are going to be. We are in the process of becoming who we are meant to be. And that means, not just, obviously, of course, in regards to spiritually and in our connection with God and that kind of thing, but just like us as humans in general, like we are growing and changing, and we are at these stages of becoming who we're going to become. But there are so many decisions and choices for us to make along the way to determine like who are we going to be, what kind of person are we going to be, our character and our lifestyle, and for the sake of why we are here, which is staying active and being physical and running and moving our bodies and things like that. Like we are all in this period of growth, and like do not remove yourself from the opportunity of saying like I'm not this or I'm not that. Like allow yourself a chance to grow and become what it is that you are working to become, and you don't want to remove yourself from that idea, right? And so of course I love this concept. I mean, he's obviously speaking about like us as people in general, like the type of person we're going to become, but really it's all relative to just in general. Again, like if you want to become a runner, if you want to be an active, healthy person, like don't remove yourself from the opportunity of allowing yourself to become that and to grow and to change, and don't count yourself out yet, because we are all in a period of growth. We are all in a period of changing, and we will continue to do that. But at its core, right, at the root of it, we are who we are. Again, like truly, literally did not mean this, but like literally at the root of it, right? Wheat's wheat and weeds are very different who you are, right? So at the root of it, you can become that wheat that you want to be, and you can grow in that way that you want to grow and become, striving for whatever it is that you are pursuing or wanting to be. In this case, obviously, a runner or a mover or somebody who makes healthy choices. And so we are all growing and changing, and do not count yourself out. And isn't God so good that he already knows that? He already knows that we are growing and changing. And to say, like, it's not worth pulling yourself out, removing yourself from this beautiful place where you're supposed to be and grow and allow yourself to change. It's not worth removing yourself and not giving yourself that opportunity to become who you are meant to be. And so, of course, it was extremely emotional. And I'm like, gosh, I feel like I can relate to that in so many ways and on so many levels, just as far as growth is concerned, like, growing as a person. And it being August, and I know that not everybody is an educator here, works in school, although many of you who are here watching this right now, I do know that you work in schools. But even thinking in regards to that, right? Like, as we're growing and changing in our professions, and come August, we all start kind of thinking about like the next school year and what we want it to look like and who we want to be in that regard, and setting ourselves up for the next year. And then, December will roll around, and then we'll all start thinking about, like, what do we want 2027 to look like? Who do we want to be in 2027? And I just encourage you guys to plant yourself where you're going to have the opportunity to become who it is you want to be, the type of person that you want to be. Plant yourself, put those roots in the place where you know that you will grow and flourish, and you will be given that time and that space, and have all the things that you need to become the person that you are wanting to become. So if we're going to take that example as, quite literally placing yourself among people who are living a way that you hope to live and that you want to be like plant yourself in that place where they are, and allow yourself to be amongst the things that you need in order to grow and flourish and become that person. Allow yourself to surround yourself with runners and active people. If it's important to you to be active and healthy, make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are allowing you and encouraging you and helping you, putting you in that situation to become that person, right? If you want to, leave your profession, or if there's something else you want to do, make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are already doing those things. And so you are allowing yourself to have access to all of the resources needed to grow and change and become what it is that you want to become in that place, and allow yourself time to grow, and know you might look like a weed at first, and you might look like you're failing, and you might look like you're struggling, and you might look like you're getting it wrong a million times over. Allow yourself a chance to grow, because you are not a weed. You are wheat. And sometimes you just need a chance to develop that. So don't count yourself short. And I'm telling myself this, of course, I need this own talk myself, because I struggle with that too. I told you guys, that's kind of when I was opening this conversation with, like, I struggle with this, and struggling with value and worth, and what do I have to offer, those kinds of things. Like, I struggle with that on a daily basis. And then you asked me to come and lead a group of people that I love so dearly. And constantly worry, like, am I being enough? And the answer is no. In my opinion, like, it's never enough. And and you guys are having to constantly go along with how I'm changing and growing. And, like, I am but a weed, and hoping to become a wheat on some level, and be able to provide, the things that people need to flourish in their life. And so if you feel like a weed, allow yourself time to grow. Okay, that's my message for today. And if you want to actually hear it, like, I encourage you to go look it up on YouTube to hear the actual parable. It's so much better than what I just spewed out to you, but it is so worth it. I think it is so worth listening to and reflecting on, and just knowing that you are valuable enough that the weeds can stay. The weeds can stay, and the enemy can plant it, right? And you can be surrounded by them, but you're still going to be given the opportunity to grow, so that you as you are, like that special, perfect, beautiful person, can be picked and plucked, and be placed where you belong, even though sometimes it is amongst what surrounding us looks like weeds, and we may feel like that ourselves. So just give yourself time and space to grow. Okay. I love you. Okay. So I wanted to share that when I first came on. Again, I've been super emotional. I want to pitch the song to you guys, because I feel like, when I am just filled with the Holy Spirit, which is just happening to me periodically. And Alicia, you are one of the people who said this to me, which I will never forget. It has been so true. When I first went into this journey, the spiritual journey, and I felt like I was having, so many, like, connections, and I was feeling so, touched and just lit up by this new connection and this new revelation about, God, and getting back into my spirituality. Alicia, you said, don't worry if you feel it kind of like faltering, and don't worry if you feel it kind of slipping away, because that will happen, and it will come back. And that is so true. It is so true, that those moments have happened over the past, I guess for me, it's been over, I guess, a year. What was it? April, a little over a year. And that's so true. But I so happen to be filled with the Holy Spirit today. Like, and I feel like when I get to in those moments, I just get super emotional. I find myself crying. My kids are always like, oh my God, you crying again. But I want to share with you guys, if you have not listened to the song Hard Fought Hallelujah by Jelly Roll and Brandon Lake, it is so good. If you just feel like you need like a good cry, or you need a good run, or you need a good, like, I'm going to get this out. If you need a good like song for spiritual connection, like I really want to pitch to you Hard Fought Hallelujah. If you haven't heard it, you've got to look it up. You've got to put in your headphones. You've got to blast it loud. And like one of the things he says in the beginning, he talks about like, sometimes when I don't feel it, that's when I need it the most. He's talking about when I don't feel my spirituality, when I don't feel my desire to connect with God and Jesus and to look up, like that's when I need it the most. And he talks about like, sometimes my hands go up easy, and then sometimes it takes all the strength that I've got to pray and just to like to just accept it and be there. And so listen to the song, blast it. If you need to, like, I'm telling you, just put it on repeat. So I listened to that song so many times today, and I'm just feeling so emotional about it and wanted to share that with you guys too. That's not on my list of things to talk about, but definitely look it up. Hard Fought Hallelujah, Jelly Roll and Brandon Lake. Love them. Okay, so let's get down to looking at some nitty-gritty stuff that has to do with the fall before I get into like the things that I want to review, and I'll kind of tell you how I got onto these topics when we get to it. But I want to jump to, on my list, the fall 10K, and it says, I put in there, where do you need to be now? So for the fall 10K, I'm talking about this because I know I have a lot of people who are interested in doing the Wicked 10K, or there are some others out there. And I just want to kind of give you guys an idea of what that means for you and where you want to be. So in my running journey, it has looked very different. I am on a completely different track than any of this that I'm about to tell you, but I still wonder, I don't know yet, haven't decided, like if I want to do the Wicked 10K. And I'm going into it the way that I tell you guys always to go into it, which is go into it knowing that there is no right or wrong or can or can't, right? Like if you're listening to this, you likely can walk 6.2 miles if you wanted to, right? So if you're looking at like, okay, is this something I want to run? I'm going to give you some guidelines as far as like, here are some milestones that you might need to be at come August. And just know that it doesn't mean like, oh, if I can't run that nonstop, then there's no place for me in this 10K. Like that's not a thing. The idea is that wherever you are, whatever your ability is, that's how you're going to show up and train, right? We've got August, September, and then October. It's kind of like mid to end of October. And that's just for this particular race. It might be different for you wherever you are. But the idea is that wherever you are, whatever shape that you're in, whatever you're running right now, that's how you will show up for these training runs. So that means if you're running intervals, if you are walking, if you are just doing half and half, whatever it is, just complete the miles. If you really want to get to this distance, complete the miles in that format of whatever you are currently at. I don't even know where I'm at right now. I've been doing intervals. I've been all over the place. I'll tell you about that in a second. But I do know come August, if I want to show up and I want to run the 10K at the end of October, I'm going to have to be able to hit these miles. So I'm going to have to start getting into the mindset of like, okay, this is my distance. However, I'm going to get there. If that means if I, walk all of it, then that's probably how I'm going to show up on race day. If I decide to do, work my way up to 10 minutes of jogging, 2 minutes of walking intervals, then that's what my race will look like. So you're going to kind of play around with it. But the idea is that you'll be around these miles come August so that you know what to look forward to. There's also a 5K, by the way, if you are in Virginia Beach or thinking about doing that, which is also an option, with much more flexibility as far as like being ready for the running portion. But just to get down to the nitty gritty, starting in August, I would want you guys, I recommend that you guys are at least 1.5 miles to 2 miles in the first week of August, but it moves pretty quick. So the plans that I have that I would give my runners would be to do 1.5, and then 2 for your 3 runs the first week in August. But then it bumps up pretty quick. Then it goes 2, 2, 2.5, and then 2, 1.5, 2.5. But by the end of August, I would have you between 3 and 3.5 miles. So that's kind of like, it's getting down to the nitty gritty if you want it to be that. So think about that. Use it as your mindset to say like, okay, am I in a place where I want to tackle this distance, or do I want to stick to a 5K right now? And if that is where you want to go, just get in the mindset, right? Please don't think like, oh, I can't do this because I'm not able to run X, Y, and Z right now. Like that doesn't matter. Whatever you can do is what you will do for the race. And it's all about fun. it is all about fun and making sure that you enjoy it. So just keep that in mind. Okay. My current workouts, I'm going to work backwards on my list. So interestingly enough, but I'm going to throw this out there because it might be something fun for you. I have been doing these workouts where I've been doing some strength exercises. I'm really trying to work on like physical therapy type exercises to strengthen my body. But I'm doing this thing where like I'll do a couple of exercises, keeping it so simple, like literally just picking up a pair of dumbbells and doing like I might do like chest and shoulders, but doing an exercise, and then I'm jogging to the end of my driveway and back, doing another exercise and in my driveway and back. There is no rhyme or reason as far as like how many or how often, but it's allowing me to, one, pick up the pace a little bit while I'm jogging, and two, continue to do strength work, but also allowing me to run. I just know that my body is not going to cooperate with me. I am not going to be able to live those days anymore where I just go out there and run, 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 and I feel great. Like I am in the place right now at my ripe old age of 43, and after, struggling with a knee injury, that I'm going to have to include strength training in my workouts. I'm just going to have to do it. I would love to just go out and run all the time and do nothing else. That's all I want to do. I'm in love with it. Like I would love nothing more, but my body said like, no, slow your roll. So I'm trying to incorporate both. I don't hate strength training, but I just don't love it like I do running. So I'm trying to, again, just do an exercise. So today, for instance, I was working on, I guess you would call it like leg day, but again, I have a knee injury. So there's a lot of things that I cannot do. Like I cannot just like squat normally. And so I'm having to, instead of going like down into deep squats as my exercise, I'm having to do more of like, I guess it would be like pulses for my exercises, but it doesn't really matter. So, but I'm doing that. I would recommend squats or lunges for you. And then I'm just, jogging to the end of the driveway and back. And doing that. And it was a great workout. I've been sweating. I know that I'm getting some strength training in, but it's also including some running, which makes me feel really, really, really good. So something you guys might want to try. So when I tell you that I'm not really sure where I am, I really don't know what I can do. And I know I'm not going to be in the place where I'm training to just like hit all those miles and get straight to that 10K. No, if I do the 10K, if I do that, it will be very much like hey, like, let's see where I am. And this is what I've been doing lately. I'm going to hop in and do the race just because it's fun. That's where I'm going to be. But that's what's working best for me right now. That's what my body needs. So something for you guys to think about too. I do want to talk about, so I know that Jeff is on here and he is coaching cross country, a cross country team, high school team. And I had the pleasure of getting to run one with my nephews whenever they were here visiting. I think it was about a week ago. I don't even know. It all blends together. But I got to help him kind of talk through some conversations with his cross country runners who are now in a place of they haven't started their cross country season yet. So for cross country, they're working their way up to racing 5Ks. So they're going to be racing 5Ks through the fall. And so he's got some new runners who are, that's my favorite, who are trying to get themselves to that distance, and just brought up some really great questions about how that feels being in this place of like, okay, it's the middle of summer. I really want to be able to run a 5K, but it's very hard for me, that kind of thing. So we spent some time like looking at some of those questions and thinking about like what could be going on as far as the mental kind of roadblocks. And so one of the questions that kind of came up while he was here that I was able to help him work through, which was, again, was so fun. Like that's just help me remember, like, that's why I love what I do. So we have this runner. She is going to start training for cross country. She has done athletics in the past. Of course, she's young. She's in high school. But she hasn't run like kind of distance running, right? Which is my passion and which is why you guys are here with me. Because I gave you the promise of I'm going to help you figure out how to run this distance. And so she is saying, I can go out and I can run 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or, I can barely run a mile. And then like I'm I can't do anymore. Like I'm in pain. Da, da, da. So, immediately my thoughts went back to like, oh my gosh, this is so common, right? This is so common. And this is one of the cornerstones of how we survive as new runners in, dabbling in the distance running world. So for me, that would be like 5K and above. And so I was like, it's pace. I said to Jeff, I was like, it's pace. It's got to be her pace. There's no way she's going out there and she is sprinting those 30 seconds and walking those other 30 seconds. And, she's young and she's, athletic, and it's got to be pace. And then of course, I mentioned to her, is it your pace? Like, are you going too fast? And she, of course, came back with like, no, I'm going slow. But what do we know, guys? What do we know about all of us who have been there? If you're listening to this, all of us, we know that whole struggle with pace is such like, oh, it's mind boggling because you think in your mind, like, I'm going slow. Like, there's no way this counts. Like, this is not running. But when you're working for distance, right, you have to know, like, there's another gear there that you have to kick into in order to make it that distance or to meet your goals. And so even though it feels like you want to say, like, okay, I'm going too slow, like, this is, this can't count. Like, you have to kick it into that lower gear and allow yourself to extend that energy expenditure so that you can make it a longer distance. And so, we talked about, I gave her a couple of plans that she can follow as far as like chunks of minutes and really slowing down that pace. And you just know it is your superpower. And I got to run with my nephew. I got to run with Joel, and it was so much fun because, again, he's a runner who's coming into cross country. Maybe doesn't, they're not at the place yet where like he's loving to go out and run. So he's kind of been, we're getting to this point now where it's like, it's go time. He's on the cross country team. It's time to start running. And so he's easing back into it. Again, it's my absolute favorite to say like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. And the first thing I did was I put him on intervals and I just talked his ear off. I got to run with him, talked his ear off about slowing down and like finding that pace, like finding that the conversational pace where it's like, okay, I can keep this going. It doesn't feel miserable. I'm not huffing and puffing. I could kind of like, I guess, what was I saying to him? Like, I wasn't like trudge along, something along the lines of like, oh, I can cruise. I was like, okay, we're going to find the place where you can cruise. And it's so funny. I told his parents, he's such a workhorse because like I'll put the interval timer on. And I think for him, we started with 2 minutes, something like 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. And it didn't matter. Like as soon as it beeped, he was like, okay, I'm going. As soon as it beeped, okay, I'm walking. Okay. As soon as it beeped, where I'm like an emotional, massive, like, I don't know if I'm ready. And so he did it fantastic. So we put him on intervals. We kind of found that place where he could make it that distance. It was almost hard to get to the end of that interval. And that's when I knew like, that's what I wanted. I wanted to keep that distance because we were getting to the 2 minute mark and it was like, oh, am I going to make it? But like, okay, I can still do this. And that's where I knew it was a sweet spot. So I just took that and I said, okay, for your distances, if you're doing this distance, I want you to run these intervals, this distance, these intervals. Anyway, and he was like, okay. Like, and it's true. We did it again the next day. And he, looked up what I had told him about the intervals and the pacing for the distance we were going. And he was like, okay, like, let's do it. And it's so funny because really for both of them, all I did was give them intervals and say like, okay, we'll try to make this interval and then move this distance. And it's just so nice to have that pace. And so I would say this to you. And I know I talked last week a little bit about it, or 2 weeks ago, about a friend of mine who had asked me like really wants to get into running, but is like, I don't know. I've been going on walks. And I recommended that she start at 30-second intervals. And so again, what I would recommend for anybody listening to this, if you're at a place of like, I don't know what my intervals should be, like, I want you to get to a place where first of all, your pace has to be cruise pace. Your pace has to be like, I can talk to a friend, like we're just, chugging along, one foot in front of the other. This does not feel like I'm torturing myself. So find that pace. And then I want you to push yourself kind of to the place where you're like, oh, can I make it? And then you're going to stop before you need to stop. Okay. Then that's going to be like your goal, because you're going to have to keep doing that interval, right? You don't just do it once and then you're done. So you're going to go nice and slow and then find that threshold of where like, okay, like I can get to this point and I can repeat it. So I can do this interval multiple times over the course of my distance. And so for Joel and I, we did a 5K, I think it was, no. We did a 4-miler actually. But it really didn't matter because once I watched him and I knew like this was his area of like, okay, this is your cruise pace and this is your interval. Like this is kind of like the repeatable amount that you can do for the course of this distance. All I did was lock it in my phone and I did check in with him the whole time. So every time we completed like one of the jogging intervals, I would say like, how did that feel? And he would say to me, like, and it's so funny. He would say to me, like, oh, that one was kind of hard. And we would talk a little bit about, like, okay, let's practice on relaxing our body, those kinds of things. And then we would do another one, like later on down the line. He was like, yeah, that one was okay. And I guarantee it was pace that made a difference. But just a reminder to you that if you're feeling like, oh, this is hard, this is a struggle, just stick with it. Stick with it. Sometimes your body takes a minute to warm up. It takes about a mile at least until you feel like you can get in the groove. You know, the sweat starts pouring, and then you're like, okay, as long as you're being mindful of your pace, you're getting yourself to the cruising altitude, and you're being mindful of your intervals and you're not overdoing it so that you can repeat them consistently until you finish those, that distance. And so, funny enough, we get to the end of his 4 miles, just literally we ended up sticking to that same interval the whole time. And I said, okay, I hit 4 miles on my watch. Like, we're done. We finished. And he was like, oh no. Like, he pulled out his phone. He's like, no, on mine it says like 3.75. So I'd like to finish. And I was like, what? So we obviously found a place that felt good for him. It was very overwhelming for him to think like, I'm just going to run 4 miles without stopping. That was very overwhelming because like, you don't know, like, how long do I walk? How long do I jog? Like, this feels like torture. I have to go so far. But if you can lock and find that sweet spot of like my pace and my intervals, and you can just keep repeating it, like, that's what you guys are looking for. Even if you're training for the 5K, 10K, or you're just trying to keep moving, ask yourself, what is that pace? Now, if you're not in a place of running, do the same thing with walking. Find that pace that you can continuously pick it up and then repeat that. And I see Jeff wrote in here. Yes, he was bribed with chocolate milk. Also, he loves some chocolate milk. And at our local grocery store, we have this, like, it's a homestead milk. I don't know, it's in this glass bottle, and it's locally made. And so he wanted, it's like, honestly, at the end of the day, it was like $10 milk, a $10 bottle of milk. And we were at the store, and he's like, I want this milk. And I was like, no, you got to earn that milk. And then he was like, oh, fine. And I was like, you're going to do your 4 miler, and then I'm going to get you that milk. So he did. It was great. It was wonderful. And then we went out again and did a shorter distance, but we were able to lock into those intervals. So anyway, pace is everything. Pace is everything. And intervals are life giving. Okay. If you're not in a place where you've just been like, run, and you're in that zone of like, I could just run forever, like, you want to really focus on getting to that cruise pace and then, completing those intervals. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Like, just, oh gosh, it feels so good when you can just like lock in and keep moving and allow your mind to drift. Did you guys hear that? That was wild. This thunder is out of control. But there's nothing more to me, although I did pass Jeff on his run that same day, and he was like, who does this for fun? It's like me. I love it. I love it. And I know he does too, but there are definitely times when it just feels so hard. So anyway, yeah. And Luke did amazing. Jeff and Luke were also out there running, and Daisha was out there doing her thing. She was out there walking, and, I make her run whenever I can get her to run with me. And she was out there just cruising along, living life and loving life. And she ended up walking forever that day. So anyway, just feels so, so, so good. So plant yourself somewhere where you're going to be surrounded in an environment that is going to encourage you to be active and move your body. Move your body, because it feels so good. Even if you think you don't want to, do whatever you can. On my final note, I feel like, and I talked to Jeff about this, and I talked to Mike about this too. Nancy, I love that you're doing strength too. You love strength training. Girl, you are so good at it. She puts on her shows and does her strength training while she watches her shows, and I love it. James Clear would be so proud of you. In Atomic Habits, you're tying that weight training to your favorite show, and you're knocking them both out. What is that called? Like behavioral activation. So good for you, girl. I feel like the biggest epiphany I've had, right, ever doing this for, again, I don't even know, 2021. What is this? 2026, 5. Okay. So fifth year. I just finished 5 years since I started this whole idea of like helping people to become runners. Here's my epiphany. More to come on this later. This actually will be changing everything down the road, but I just have to figure out how. And this just hit me. This literally just hit me this past week, but it's everything. So most people come to me, not all. Most people come to me because they are lacking not the ability, the motivation, to show up for themselves, to take care of themselves, to move their bodies. And they say, like, this sounds great. Make me a runner. I want to be a runner. You're making it sound doable. I did the first couple of workouts. I feel great about that. And they need me to help them with their consistency. That is the majority of the people that come to me are in that place of like, I'm out of it. I'm out of shape. And I kind of pitch that, right? Like, I kind of have pitched. I go back to Cameron's comment when she was my first runner that I took from 0 to 5K. And she says that I was at negative 10, I don't even know what she said, negative 10 fitness level, meaning like she was doing absolutely nothing. And I kind of like, that's my claim to fame is like, I can take you from doing nothing and get you to a 5K, and that is possible. But I'm really having this epiphany of like, a lot of people come to me in that place. Like, I'm doing nothing and I want you to help me because I need to do something. And we push and we grind and we get through and get to that 5K, right? But like, it's so difficult to sustain and it's such a grind to get there. And so I've just had this realization that like there has to be it's kind of like two paths, right? Like, so if somebody was coming to me and saying like, I want to be a runner, I think the one thing that I would ask now, not because of physical ability, please know that it's not because of physical ability, but if someone came to me right now who was not running or not a runner and said like, hey, I want to be a runner, I think the first thing that I would kind of dive into with them would be figuring out like, but are we already doing something for ourselves? Are we already in a place where we are showing up for ourselves? Are we doing any walking? Are we going to the gym? Are we taking care of ourselves in any way, doing yoga? Is there anything like that that's happening that you've already created a habit with? And I would start there because I think, please hear me. It's not because I think you have to be in a certain physical shape before you can get into running, but really trying to crack this code. And more so because these are the experiences that I've had over the past couple of years since being injured. Like, if the first step in this journey, like, yes, you can push through and grind through and get to a 5K and it can be, hard and difficult. But the first step really should be like, have you created those habits of just liking yourself enough, loving yourself enough to show up for yourself? Like that, in hindsight, or maybe as I move forward, I don't know where to put this yet, but there needs to be first this moment, this timeline of I need to figure out how to show up for myself because I don't really like the person that I am. And I know that sounds really deep. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I hate myself, but like, I'm not loving myself enough to show up for myself. I'm not liking myself enough to do something for myself. I'm not feeling worthy enough. I'm feeling like I'm failing. I'm feeling like a slacker. Like, that needs addressed before diving into any kind of like training plan, right? And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but it's so true. And if like that, there's one thing that over these past 5 years that I've recognized, I've done nothing about yet, but it is on my radar. And I was just talking to Mike about this the other day. Like, I need to figure out how to crack this code. But like, step one is like, where are you? Are you in a place where you are showing up for yourself yet? And if the answer is no, that's where we start. Like, that's where we start. How do we get you to a place? And sometimes by saying to you, like, okay, go out and jog for 3 minutes and walk for 3 or whatever, I don't know, can be like, okay, I'm going to go through and do the thing. But like, is that really taking care of like the root issue of like, okay, but I'm not showing up for myself because I'm not feeling worthy. I'm not feeling like, I can do it. And so I think that I would tackle that before even diving into the running program, if that makes sense, if I could do it all over again. Now, if someone is showing up for themselves in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't matter. It's not a physical issue. It is not a physical ability, capability issue. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a mindset, a place where like, I can do this, because a lot of my runners struggle with that part so much. And we go strictly off of motivation, go strictly off of that grinding, and go strictly off of that, like forcing myself to do it because I need to do something. And this feels like something I should be doing. And I'll feel better about myself. I'll like myself more if I can just run a 5K. That would be amazing. But then what? Then what? And I feel like that's where I am. But the work that needs to be done first is like, okay, I'm just going to show up for myself, and I'm going to love myself the way that I am. And I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to make time for myself, and I'm going to create these habits for myself. And I'm going to do it just by walking around the block. I'm going to do something that doesn't create as much resistance or that difficulty of pushing through. And I'm just going to show up a little bit like that. And I'm going to do that for a few months. And I swear that would be the key, right? Processing through that and then diving into I know, Daisha, you're gonna be like, I told you this years ago. And then diving into like, okay, like now you're showing up for yourself. Like, look at you, like you're doing so good. You found this rhythm, you found these habits, and you realize that you are worthy of this. And then like, okay, you want to challenge yourself. Like, let's go ahead and dive into this because you have the ability to do it. Now, does somebody have the ability to do it if they're doing absolutely nothing? Yes. Like, yes, yes, yes. But I don't think it's addressing the root problem. I'm laughing because literally my sister has said this to me for the past 2 decades, but it's true. And I'm just thinking about like, how do I help my people, the ones that I am drawn to, the ones that I love to help the most? Like, I think that's where the magic is. That's the part that I am missing. That's the part that I'm missing. So more on that later, but just wanted to share that because in case you have been in that place, like I know I have been there over the past couple of years, especially since getting injured. Like that was a huge struggle for me that I'm still working to overcome. But I just think that that mindset could change everything because if you find yourself in a place where you're like, okay, I'm trying to run, I'm trying to run, I'm trying to run, but you really aren't doing anything for yourself right now, that could just be too overwhelming and then creating this resistance for you where it's like, oh gosh, I don't even want to I'm not going to go out there and jog. I'm not going to go out there and, walk 3 miles. Like I'm not ready for that because no, you're not ready for that. Like it's not, you're not taking care of yourself in that way. Okay. Whew, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I love you guys so much. Thank you for coming to hang out with me today. I will be back again in 2 weeks and I can't wait to see what you guys are up to. So in 2 weeks, will that be August yet? I don't even know. Time is flying by. I hate it. Yes. It's going to be August 2nd. I'm only pouting because I don't know. I'm getting closer to going back to school. And then this is like the point where all of you who are working year round are like, Tina, stop. Um, we are the wheat and the weed. Yeah. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation. I have so much to say to you always. Have a great 2 weeks and I will see you again in August. Oh my gosh, the first Sunday in August. I love you guys. Have an amazing week.